Welcome to the Navigating Your Life show. I'm your host, Nat Williams. Tonight we're going to be discussing that our planet is rocking and rolling. With all the recent weather events and disasters throughout the last few years, we thought we should dive into the topic of what's been happening to our planet and what we should be bracing for in the future. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Larry Malanconico at Lafayette College to discuss what has been going on recently with our planet, and here's what he had to share. So we're here today with Dr. Malanconico of the Geology Department here at Lafayette College. So Doc, why don't you tell us a little about your background before we start asking you some questions?
Right. I just finished my 30th year teaching, 21 here at Lafayette College. Over the course of my career, I've had an interest in natural disasters. I actually had the opportunity to be one of the first teams into Mount St. Helens before and after the eruption. I subsequently worked around volcanoes in South America, Central America, Italy, and I've also worked in Pakistan doing structure and tectonic studies.
Wow. Well, that seems wonderful for our topic of today, which is talking about some of the things that are going on around our world. One of the things that a person wonders, is it just because we have better information and we hear things more timely than we did in the past, or is it really that our world is going through some changes? So what is your take on that?
It would depend on which disaster we sort of would focus on at any one time. If we look at earthquakes and volcanoes, it's probably not that there's any more going on, or they're not increasing through time. Okay. Of course, there's not a set amount that we're going to have one occur every 5 years. It might be one occur 5 years and then 20 years for that. And we have such a short time reference for that it may seem like there's more, but in the long run, it's pretty much averages out. If we look at something like hurricanes, though, it may very well be that those are going to be increasing both in frequency and in size now, probably as a result of the warming of our climate.
And that is a real phenomenon. That's not something that people are just imagining in your research and in your 30 years of exposure. Right. It's a real thing.
Global climate change and warming is a real thing. We haven't had a long enough time period quite yet with regard to hurricane frequencies and stuff to document that, to say it's absolutely certain, but we have seen an increase in the number of hurricanes and the severity, and this year, in fact, is the warmest sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean that's ever been recorded.
Wow. And so some of the other natural disasters, you talked about volcanoes, you talked about hurricanes. What else
Well, of course, in the last year or so, we've had very devastating earthquakes occurring. We had the earthquake in Haiti. Casualties are up around 220,000 people plus as a result of that. Wow. We had an earthquake which was probably about 750 times larger occur off the coast of Chile. Fortunately, it caused relatively small number of casualties. 650 is not small, but when you compare it to Haiti, it's significantly less. Wow. And of course, we've had significant disruptions recently to air travel. No casualties, but certainly economic disruption as a result of the eruption in Iceland.
So when you go back to the earthquakes, what is a contributing factor to the increase, or is it just again more awareness of them?
Yeah, it's probably more awareness of them. The number of earthquakes that occur per year is pretty well fixed. You want to think of it as a certain amount of energy that is being released from the earth at any one time. Wow. That's released in the form of earthquakes, and that's pretty constant. And what most people don't realize is there are over 1 million earthquakes that occur annually on the world. Most of them are very small. When you get up to the Haiti-size earthquakes, the magnitude 7, there are about 15 of those which occur worldwide. Haiti was brought to our attention because it occurred in such a poor country that the construction practices were so bad, and it occurred so close to Port-au-Prince that the damage was evident to everybody as a result of that. Wow. The counter to that, of course, is Chile. Much larger earthquake, much better construction practices, and significantly less damage. And that's an earthquake that occurs only once every 10 years, that magnitude earthquake.
Wow. And when you talked earlier about construction, you know, we have a lot of bridges and tunnels and other infrastructure. How well are those built to tolerate the kind of events that you have mentioned?
Well, here in the eastern United States, they're not designed at all to withstand, say, an earthquake, a significant earthquake. There just aren't, we don't have earthquake building codes that worry about a magnitude 7 earthquake or a magnitude 8.8 earthquake. In other parts of the world, the Midwest, California, there are fairly stringent earthquake codes. And if those are followed, those structures, you're not going to stop them from being damaged, but what they're designed to do is to stop the building from collapsing. And that's when the casualties occur, when these collapses occur.
And so I would think that your belief would be if you don't take these things seriously, come a natural disaster, you're going to find yourself in a very precarious situation.
Right. The grocery stores will sell out of water very, very quickly. You know, it may not be, we may not be able to get gasoline for your cars, for example, because that's all electrical driven there for the pumps. Yeah, you would be in a situation where you'd be at not the mercy, but the kindness of strangers if you weren't prepared.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers as things that they could do to better prepare or just better become more educated about what's happening around our planet?
I think if you just pay attention to current events, you're becoming educated about what can happen. I think the thing to not do is a sort of ostrich syndrome, stick your head in the sand and say it's not going to happen here. Sure, we probably won't have a magnitude 7 earthquake in eastern Pennsylvania, but we will have the potential for floods, for hurricanes, for tornadoes, for wild weather predominantly in the eastern United States. Be prepared for that. Realize it can occur. What was it, 6 years ago, 6 and 5 years ago, we had significant flooding here. I think most people would prefer to forget that. Well, rather than forget it, think about how you would be prepared to deal with it the next time.
A special thanks to Dr. Malanconico for giving us such great information. We're now going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have a representative from the Red Cross, so please stay with us.
Ready for some fun? FunWorks assists individuals with and without disabilities to participate in community activities. These activities are provided in small settings for 1 to 8 individuals with at least 1 to 2 direct support professionals. We visit places like Dollywood, Willow Valley Inn, Phillies Games, Iron Pigs Games, the Lehigh Valley Zoo, and more. Let us know your dream trip. Our staff is dedicated to ensuring your dream activities come true. For more information, call 888-966-9466 or visit funworksinc.org.
In these challenging times, your organization needs employees that maximize results. HumanWorks Training and Educational Services provides results-focused seminars for your staff. Topics include management and motivating employees, stress management, team building and leadership skills, and cultural diversity. Register today, just $89.99 or $75 for chamber members. Call 484-893-5057 or visit hwtes.com.
Kachaj, age 10, is friendly and mild-mannered and soft-spoken. He delights in pleasing others and shows great appreciation and excitement for things big or small that others do for him. He loves to watch television and play video games. Kachaj is in the 4th grade. His teachers say he works very hard and is quite a perfectionist. Kajir is 7 and is affectionate and takes great joy in giving and getting hugs. He is very energetic and inquisitive about the world around him. His favorite activities include watching cartoons and playing video games. Kajir can struggle with adapting to change and requires patience and redirection. However, once he becomes accustomed to a situation, he warms up and displays his outgoing personalities. The brothers' greatest wish is for a family that will welcome them both into their home. For adoption information, please access the National Adoption Center's website at adopt.org. And for further information on both of these brothers, please contact A. Cressman at adopt.org.
Enrich your life at Sacred Heart Villa, situated atop Mount St. Michael on 40-plus scenic acres. Our caring staff includes missionary sisters and on-site licensed nurses 24/7. We offer medical reminders as well as dispensing medication and transportation to medical appointments. With excellent food, fun events, a spacious hall, safe rooms, and much more, your life will be enriched. Call 610-929-5751 or go to sacredheartvilla-readingpa.org.
Well, welcome back to the Navigating Your Life show. We have with us in the studio today Cordelia Miller, who's the Director of Emergency Services for the American Red Cross in Bethlehem. So welcome, Ms. Miller. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine.
Good. So tell us what the American Red Cross does and the kind of aid that it provides as we look at a time in our society where the planet is responding to lots of different events and just nature is happening. So tell us what the American Red Cross does to help out.
The Red Cross has a mission. Our mission is to plan, prepare for, and respond to disasters, emergencies in our communities. And when we talk in terms of disaster, here locally, every 3 days we're having a fire in the Lehigh Valley.
Wow.
So primarily for us, we're dealing with single-family fires, multiple buildings and apartment complexes. After that, we're looking at hazmat situations. Think about what's running over 22 and I-78. When something like that happens, we could possibly potentially have an evacuation due to hazardous materials that might be, in our area.
And one of the things we were talking about earlier before the show started was how the Valley has been really very lucky with some of the events. It hasn't been affected, but reality is we have to be vigilant and prepared. And what are some of the kinds of things that you'd want our viewers to keep in mind as part of their preparation?
Well, first of all, take preparedness seriously. We here in the Valley, because we have not had the major hurricanes and floodings that other states have, so we tend to be kind of complacent with it. So, first of all, you have to sit down with your family and develop a disaster plan. And that disaster plan will include anything from having supplies that you would need, a 2-week supply, water, food, medications, all those things that you would need in order to survive. With that, an evacuation plan. So sitting down with your family, and when we talk about an evacuation plan, consider that if we're having a large event, what would happen? Certain roads and certain streets would be cut off. 22 might be shut down. So you really should talk about what alternative route that you could get out of your home. And then where are you going to go? The question has to be asked. In a situation where we have a large disaster, Red Cross will set up shelters. We work very closely with the county emergency management. They could be a large school. It could be a church a few blocks from your house. We have various shelters that we have agreements with throughout the Lehigh Valley. In time of a disaster, we would then staff these shelters with volunteers and staff to be there to provide for your needs. You would then be told what shelters are open and where to go. And within that disaster kit that you're going to have, and this is the most important thing, to have a disaster kit. And you want to have a radio in there because that's how you're going to be getting direction.
One of the things that I pride myself on is listening to XM radio.
Absolutely.
But I would think that in a disaster, they may not provide the local information that I'm looking for because I'm so happy listening to my music that I still have to remember what those local stations are so that I could find a way to tune into that. So that may be something for people to think about as we become so globalized. Most likely the challenge we're going to have is going to be more local than global, and we need to make sure we have that infrastructure. We still remember what that AM channel is to tune into. Would you agree?
In your disaster kit, one of the things you want to do is to write down on a piece of paper on that tablet that you're going to have in your disaster box, the local stations. This will be broadcast on television. When we hear that beep, beep, beep emergency, they will start broadcasting the information and where you will get it. It's very important to listen very attentively to what they're telling you. And please listen to your local authorities. If they tell you to go one place, please go there. There is a system in place. We practice and we drill for all types of emergencies here in the Lehigh Valley so that when something comes up, we work very closely with the local authorities.
Sure. And recently, one of our shows were preempted by those beeping sounds because there was some flooding and storms that were going through. And a friend had called me and said, "Hey, I missed half of your show because of all this, emergency stuff that was going on." And I said, reality is, for someone, that beeping sound made a real difference. And so for us, it may have been an inconvenience, but for someone else, it probably was a convenience. And we need to keep that in mind, that just because it's not affecting us personally, it's still an issue that needs to be paid attention to. And I think the work that the American Red Cross does, and whatever we can do to support them financially, with our time and our talents, I think we need to do that. And so I want to encourage our viewers to keep that in mind as they look at places to give their time and their talents to, as well as their money, that they look at the American Red Cross to do that.
Thank you very much.
Good.
The Red Cross really, of course, is always in need of financial assistance. But primarily, the Red Cross really is run by volunteers. We're one of the largest voluntary organizations in this country. So we're always looking for volunteers to help us.
Well, so thank you very much, Ms. Miller. It's been a pleasure having you
All
on the
right.
show. We have to stop now to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, we'll be joined by the director of Pennsylvania's Emergency Management Agency, so please stay with us.
At Bridge to Creative Learning and Child Care Center, your child will learn and play the creative way in a safe and secure environment. We offer a fun and caring educational-based atmosphere and allow parents to monitor their child's activities. We are a state-licensed child care center offering academic preparation, after-school programs, creative learning, summer activities, and much more. Call us at 610-351-7400. Prepare your child for a brighter future.
Explore Dr. Nat Williams' Absolutes of Success book series featuring The Navigator of Life, The Mature 64, Living Life 8x8, Management and Leadership by the 3 Ps, The Affordability Factor, The 4 C's of Change, Embracing Your Real Life, and the Absolutes of Success series workbook, Maximizing Your Greatest Potential to Achieve Your Personal Best. All books available at drnatwilliams.com or amazon.com.
Ready for some fun? FunWorks assists individuals with and without disabilities to participate in community activities. These activities are provided in small settings for 1 to 8 individuals with at least 1 to 2 direct support professionals. We visit places like Dollywood, Willow Valley Inn, Phillies Games, Iron Pigs Games, the Lehigh Valley Zoo, and more. Let us know your dream trip. Our staff is dedicated to ensuring your dream activities come true. For more information, call 888-966-9466 or visit funworksinc.org.
So welcome back to the Navigating Your Life show. Now joining us in the studio is Robert French, who's the director of Pennsylvania's Emergency Management Agency. So welcome, Rob. How are you?
Great. Thanks for
Good.
having me today.
Very good. So tell us what PEMA does.
PEMA is the agency from the state government level that helps to coordinate emergencies and to help prepare for the event of an emergency. We work with the county emergency management programs as well as local emergency management programs. So our job is to be able, when there's a disaster that is beyond the capability of the local responders, to be able to help coordinate other resources.
Wow. And what have been some of the disasters that Pennsylvania has had, just to remind our viewers of some of the things that have gone on a statewide level, not just so much in our local area?
Pennsylvania is most prone to floods. And of course, many will think of the snowstorms and how difficult our winters can be.
Sure.
And that is true. We have some pretty serious winters here. This past winter was no exception. Between snow and floods,
Wow.
it was a very challenging winter for our emergency managers and for the public in general. And so, but first and foremost, flooding is the #1 natural disaster we have.
So let's just talk about that for a second. What are some of the things that a person can do to be ready for a flood?
The most important thing that an individual can do is have themselves prepared. And to do that, they need to be informed.
Okay.
And the way to go about doing that is sometimes hard for people to even think about, how do I get started? And so what we have done is put together some information that might be useful for individuals to get themselves started. Because if you can first know what you're going to have to deal with, then you can plan for it.
Right. It's not a surprise.
Correct. And if you can plan for it, then every one of us as individual citizens need to be able to take care of ourselves for the first 72 hours. And now that means simply that sometimes we'll get stranded during flooding.
So you'll have to stay in place.
Correct.
Okay.
And so if that happens, what would you do? Most people, by and large, don't think it's ever going to happen to them.
And would you have to envision no electricity, possibly water may be cut off? So you really have to think about staying in place, and all the comforts that you have are not there.
That's correct. And so in order to do that, what we've done is we've put on our website, and if you just went to PEMA, as you would Google that, then you will come to our website, and there is a listing there, Ready PA, which will help you to become informed if you're not informed at this point. And from that, what you can do then is prepare for if you got stranded at home. You also need to be able to prepare for if you get stranded on the road.
Right, your car.
What happens if you're stranded at work? And so it's not just having a kid at home.
You have to If you really want to frighten people, I think you just did it by saying being stranded at work. Of all the places people think about being stranded, that's probably the last place but in reality is it could happen any time, and are you prepared at work to have the things that you need to get by? And that's an important point to think about.
It is, very much so. And the time to try to pull things together is not when the emergency actually is occurring. And so one of the things that I would encourage everyone to do is for their vehicles to have with them a kit that they've prepared as a result of being informed, so that should they get stranded on the road, they can be able to sustain themselves until help comes.
Sure. So tell us what's in there.
Well, there are a number of things that I have here that you would think are logical things. For example, a flashlight would be one of those things that you would want to make sure you have, and make sure that the batteries are always fresh.
Sure.
Because a lot of times we have flashlights, and if you've ever tried to, and it's sat around for a while, you go to turn it on and the batteries aren't current, then you have another issue. Have a first aid kit.
Wow.
They're small, but yet enough to help you get by. There are other things that you want to do is have something that you would be able to work through as you're waiting. You want to make sure you have water, make sure some sustenance of some sort.
Sure.
And another thing that folks a lot of times forget to do is, those who are taking medicines, is to have medicine with them.
Wow.
And so I would encourage our listeners and viewers to go to the website, because there are a lot more things that, based off your personal situation, you will want to consider putting in your kit for the road. And there'll be some different things for home.
Right, and I could see this doubling as something you may need for work. So you kept it in your car in case you had a problem on the road, but if you were stuck at work, there may be some things you can go to your car and pull out as well.
That's correct,
So that
yes.
could double. Okay, very good. Anything else you want to highlight from your...
No,
Okay.
again, I think the key
Sure.
to highlight is that no one thing, no one kit is perfect for all of
Everybody.
us.
Wow.
That's why we encourage everyone to first be informed, and that means look at the list and see if it will prompt your memory for some things. That's the intent of it. The second thing is, if you're informed about what it takes for the different kinds of emergencies, you can prepare for it. And the third thing we encourage folks to do is, if you are ready, if you're prepared, then we also have on that website a place for you to volunteer your help.
Wow.
Because lots of times our response, once we have our own families secure, is to say, how can I help others?
Sure. I think the information that you shared is really very powerful, and I think the message that I take away from this is that to believe for a second that this won't eventually affect you is possibly placing your life in jeopardy. A lot of times if you have that additional food, it may make the difference between life and death, or have that medication, it may make the difference between surviving or not surviving. So it's really critical. If we care about ourselves and love our families and love our communities, this is something we should do. It's almost like a no-brainer. There's nothing to think about. We just have to find the time and the finances to go out and put these kits together. And you've already given us the menu of the stuff that we would want to have as part of that kit.
I hope that everyone will take time, although it is one of those last things that you do because our time is so valuable, would take just enough time to put together this individual kit for their car even, because that will make a big difference someday in your lives.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for coming in and spending time with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us today.
We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to wrap up today's show, so please stay with us.
It's about changing the world in which we live.
It's about playing, living, and working together.
It's about escaping from special programs.
It's about finding leadership
and social justice.
The Pennsylvania Developmental Disabilities Council believes that disability is a natural part of the human condition.
We are working to create a commonwealth where all people thrive in shared citizenship.
And everybody wins.
In this week's Employment Highlight, we are going over the biggest resume mistakes job seekers make. Typos and grammatical errors or incorrect contact information. Lack of specifics. Explain what you've done and accomplished. one-size-fits-all resume. Write your resume specifically for the employer. Highlighting duties, not accomplishments. Pinpoint your success rather than what you've done. Too long or too short. Maximum is typically 2 pages, but don't feel constrained to 1 page and cut out important information. A bad objective. Many are vague and space wasters. Focus on specifics and their needs. No action verbs. Avoid phrases like responsible for. Use verbs like resolved. Visually too busy. Show your resume to several people for opinions. Make sure it's not hard on the eyes.
Do you want to achieve a greater role in your life? Then join Dr. Nat Williams for the Absolutes of Success series, Attaining Your Personal Best workshop in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Workshop highlights include challenging life events, life's least common denominators, reframing, and developing a solid plan for the future. Attendees also receive the Absolutes of Success series workbook. Register today, only $50. Call 1-800-810-3683 or absolutesofsuccess.com.
We hope today's show has been enlightening, encouraging, and empowering for you. Our planet has experienced major hurricanes, tornado outbreaks, deadly tsunamis, and extreme temperature changes during the last few years. Regardless of what cards Mother Nature has dealt us, we must be prepared. All weather alerts should be taken seriously. We can utilize today's tips to ensure we keep our family and ourselves safe from the next disaster our planet hands us. As we wrap up today's show, we want to let you know we're looking forward to having you join us next week when we'll be highlighting the best clips of the season shows. Till then, please be well. Thanks for watching.
A list of resources related to today's show is available on our website, which is navigatingyourlifeshow.com. On this site, there is a connection to our Facebook and Twitter pages and to our blog. While you are there, you can also email your comments on today's show or share ideas for future shows.